And I was looking at it and I'm like, what if we applied Maslow's hierarchy of needs to a business? Right. And we just kind of structured that. And, one of those hierarchies is self-actualization, which is exactly what you just said. Like, how do you take them along that path to get to this place so that they realize that they have more potential in them than they ever even thought within the business that they're already in? And, that's where new innovations come from. That's where like a lot of great stuff, that creativity that people have kind of, tampered down over a period of time, thinking, I just got this, work, this job, I'm going to get to the end of this thing and I'll get retirement and all that stuff. But most people don't want that, and
Welcome to Sharpen the Spear podcast, where we help manufacturing executives command the front and win the floor. I'm Richard Walsh, creator of the Sharpened Impact methodology, and I spent decades helping leaders transform frontline teams, unlock hidden profit, and capture capacity they didn't even know they had. If you want to see where your leadership gaps are costing you and how to fix them, head over to grittolead.com and run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator today. Let's sharpen your edge and get started. And we are back on STS Sharpen the Spear podcast with another incredible guest. I've got Doug C. Brown with us. And Doug, no one knows Doug better than Doug. So Doug, we need the backstory, bring us up to speed, and we'll get into the conversation.
Hey, Richard, thanks for having me here on the podcast. Well, I started business-wise, I started working at age 3, actually, from my dad's business.
You're a late bloomer? You're a late bloomer?
I was, the family was all upset because I wasn't in by 2.5, but
Right.
It's just, I don't know if they needed somebody to take care of me or what, but all my brothers went through this. I had three brothers and we all started working in my dad's business early on, and I swept floors for 25 cents a week. I loved it. It was how do I say? It was like hanging out with the adults, and then they bring me to like the bar for lunch, and I'd hang out on the bar stool and drink my Coca-Cola, and they would talk, and it was a blast. My dad would bring me into meetings, so my father had a industrial machinery repair company, and so I'd go in and I'd sit with CEOs and sit with business owners, and just sit there, be quiet, and soak up all this information. We started selling around 5.5, 6 years old. And, I've been selling ever since then, really, when it came down to it. So over time, I've built, survived, crashed, broken even, succeeded or wildly succeeded at now. This is our 37th venture.
Wow. Good for you. Yeah. I did that with my dad in the business. We were in the golf course construction and maintenance business.
Oh, nice.
He lived like on the golf course. So that 4 a.m., it's still my wake up time. I'd be out changing cups and tees and just doing all the stuff, right? So my kids, I was on my second business, had a gym, doing membership. My kids would hang out, same thing. Sit next to me while I'm closing memberships, bringing people in, training people, and then my construction business, same thing. So there's a lot to be said for that. Even if they never get into business or get into sales, soaking up that atmosphere and just understand this is like another world, really, that a lot of people don't get an opportunity to be in. It's pretty cool just for their own memories and experience. So I think it's only an advantage. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, I agree. I actually did it with my 2 girls, and they, sometimes it was like, oh, Dad, get me out of here. Like, why are you dragging me along to this? But I did learn a lot of great lessons. And I think, they're now telling me they have, as well. So I think it was a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, I have a saying with my kids: you can thank me later. when they're complaining, you can thank me later. You might be 30, but you can thank me then too. It's okay. But I know what I'm doing. So where you at now? What do you, that 37 ventures is a lot of ventures. But currently, like, what's your trajectory after all this and whatever you're working on now, kind of where you at?
Yeah, we're sort of in a little bit of a transition, which is kind of interesting because normally I'm like, just go, 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 go. And as I get a little bit older, I'm like, all right, what do I really want to do when I grow up? I mean,
Yeah.
um, so we have a insurance business, insurance brokerage that we've raised up off the ground, which is just getting going. And I'm very heavily considering. I actually just had lunch today with my wife, and we were talking about this. I'm very heavily considering teaching people the revenue and profit growth business that I have been doing now for, geez, 30 years.
Mhm.
That one's always kind of been the steady Eddie, if you will, all the way through. Um, and what's bothering me, I guess, I'm 63 now, right? So it's kind of like, the house is paid off, all that good stuff. Um, I think at this point in my life, it's more about how do I help other people? And that's one of the reasons I started looking at the insurance business and the this business, because it's like, all right, how do I help people make more money than they're making, or how do I help people make at least six figures, on their own? And after 37 businesses, I think I've earned the right to be able to say, okay, we've done well over $1 billion in sales. I think we've learned a few things, in this thing, and I don't like what's going on with you know, the, you got kids who are talking about, and I'm saying kids now in their 20s, 20s, 30s, talking, we'll never afford a home. We'll never even be able to get a home. And then you've got people in corporate America where, I had been in before, where it's like they're going every day going, paid prison. I don't like this. I want to get out. And then you got people who are kind of a little younger than I am and trying to get into retirement, but they're looking at retirement going, I can't. I run out of money.
Mhm.
So I want to help those people, and in the gifts that I have, and give back to that process. So, we've created a turnkey thing on the insurance business that people can walk into, and I'm thinking of turning a turnkey thing on the profit, revenue growth, and cost reduction business, as well. And that way, people, even in their retirement, I mean, if they want to earn an extra 80 grand a year while retiring, it's the difference between them not being able to do things with their grandchildren or great grandchildren, or running out of money, or not being able to keep their home and all this stuff. It's just, to me, it's tragic not to be able to do that.
Yeah, there's that saying, you don't want to outlive your money.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you think about it, and it's not what it was.
Mm-mm.
You said make 100 grand. Yeah, that used to be like a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah,
Now you're struggling to be middle class
right.
with 100. It's just shocking.
Yeah,
I
but
just
no, I was going to say the amount of people who aren't making it though, Richard, it's still
Mhm.
staggering, the numbers. So it's, I say 100. If they want to make 200, they want to make 300, they want to make 400, 500, whatever, it can be done. It's just one of those things that I don't like to overpromise and not be able to deliver on that promise.
Sure.
Um, so I know without question, I know how to get people, there or beyond,
Yeah.
but I definitely can get them there.
Yeah, and I think that's great because here's the thing, and I love what you're doing, Doug, because everyone is like, there's one way. They really never, people don't give and expand out what they've done for 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is, they've kind of done that. And they truly think like that's their only capability. I
Yeah.
was having a discussion this morning with a gentleman, and we're just talking about like how we take our own employees. I said, because we were talking about AI and things like that, but it's like, well, you don't understand. People have so much potential inside them,
Yeah.
but no one extracts it.
Right.
No one pulls out, no one puts the challenges in front of them to rise to. They put them in the box and they say, stay in the box and do your thing and you'll get a paycheck. So I love what you're doing because you actually got to pull people out a little bit, get them a little uncomfortable, but show them another path that can open up a lot of different doors, right?
Yeah. And, during lunch today, I was saying to my wife, I was looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I don't know. I just have a weird brain. It sort of works this way.
Was
It's just
this
like,
after you looked at the menu and then you
yeah,
pulled that out and you looked at it? What?
it was, it was like, I'll take the cowboy pork chops. That was, we were at Longhorn. And,
a side of Maslow and a side of Maslow.
and I was looking at it and I'm like, what if we applied Maslow's hierarchy of needs to a business? Right. And we just kind of structured that. And, you know, one of those hierarchies is self-actualization, which is exactly what you just said. Like, how do you take them along that path to get to this place so that they realize that they have more potential in them than they ever even thought within the business that they're already in? And, you know, that's where new innovations come from. That's where like a lot of great stuff, that creativity that people have kind of, you know, tampered down over a period of time, you know, thinking, I just got this, you know, work, this job, I'm going to get to the end of this thing and I'll get retirement and all that stuff. But most people don't want that, you know, and they really want to be contributing and be part of the process and feel like they've kind of left their stamp on at least their section of life, you know? So yeah, that's in essence what I'm trying to do for people. And I'm trying to give them leverage because, you know, I'm not talking about them making $100,000 a year and working 50 hours a week. I'm talking about them making 100 grand a year and working maybe 20, 25 hours a week. You know, and so to create leverage in their lives, because many people don't have that. And I was fortunate to really start to realize it at age 5.5, you know, through working with my dad. So, you know, I mean, I remember clearly I was getting 25 cents an hour at this point. That was like big bucks for a 6-year-old, right? And I remember 25 cents an hour was 40 hours, $10. I was getting $10 a week. And I sold a part because we were machinery repair, but we paid $10 for the part. I sold it for 20. And in my little 6-year-old brain, it was like, wait a minute, I just did this in like 5-6 minutes, but I'm working all week long for the same amount of money we just made off this part. And something in my head clicked. And it's like, oh, okay. So if I just do more of this, then I could actually create more money for myself in a shorter period of time. And that's really how I started in sales.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had let's call it a similar experience. I wasn't 5.5 though. I came out of the Marine Corps, had to get a job. So you're talking mid 80s. And I'm like, okay, $5 an hour was the going rate to swing a pickaxe and dig trench all day.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm doing that. I'm shoveling, I'm swinging all day. A guy came out to me, say, hey, I got a little side job for you, man. Can you do this on Saturday? Yeah, I can do it. So I show up and he's got 35 tons of gravel in the street.
Oh, geez.
Says, shovel that, bring it to the backyard. It's in Tucson, Arizona. I said, I can do that. I mean, it's only 100 degrees out. So I shovel this thing. Take about 10 hours. They get done. Finish sweeping the street. I'm all proud. I'm looking at the thing, and the guy comes out and he put $1,000 in my hand.
Wow.
Okay, and I look and go, dang, I did this yesterday for $40. Kind of like what you did with 25 cents. I'm like, I know my future. I will shovel rock every day, all day for $1,000 a day.
Yeah,
you know?
that's
so
what I have.
Yeah, and that's why I launched a landscape business. It turned into everything else, you know. So you get it's great when that light bulb goes off, and all of a sudden you realize leverage, right?
Yeah.
Leverage. I guess this is the best word right now. You know, how do you leverage that? You did it with a part, you know, and you saw the opportunity, and then you capitalize it, and you're on your way.
Yeah, and it's not, you know, it's not most people's fault because they're taught. Like I remember when we were in school, like you and I's probably similar age, because when I was you were in the Marine Corps getting out in the 80s, I was in the Army getting out in the 80s. And you know, I remember my traditional school was like, you go to school, you have set classes, you do this, you get out, then you go get a part-time job and you work for an hourly wage and, you know, save a little bit. But nobody was even my dad and my, you know, they weren't teaching me save a little bit, invest a little bit, and save a little bit, invest a little. We were just taught to do this linear thing. And then the only way you're going to get more is to raise your hourly rate of what you're getting through the process. And for many, many years, you know, I did that. I worked jobs. And then it was only when I was starting to get into jobs that I actually started selling again that I was like, wow, okay, wait a minute. I'm earning more in a day than some of these people are earning in a week. And that's where it really started kicking in. Even when I had businesses, you know, we were working like, you know, I had a landscaping business, for example, right? And, we'd mark up things and do that, but I really didn't quite get it. We would do jobs and I'd pay people per hour, and sometimes we'd be hired per hour or whatever. And it was a form of leverage because it wasn't like, we were getting $5 or $10 an hour for that, but it was still not, I remember one day in selling, I actually made a year's income in one day. And I was like, I can take the rest of the year off if I need, at that point. Right. So I'm a big proponent of this leverage process through, but we're not taught that growing up. And I still don't see it amongst the children being brought up that they're taught leverage, because I think my theory, not to be a conspiracy theorist, but I think it's a lot easier for the government to collect more tax money from people who don't know how to leverage than the other way around.
That's right. That's right. I was thinking about leverage when my kids, I had 6 kids and they're little, we had this we're in Wisconsin, so we got a big snowstorm, big drift out front. One of my kids starts digging snow caves. So they dig in the side, and then he builds another one. He's on his 4th one. He's curled up inside. And I got this little video camera, and I'm talking, his name's Augie. Augie, look at that, man. 4 snow caves. He goes, yeah, what do you think? I go, well, it's pretty cool, but you can only live in one at a time. So what should you do with the other 3? And he looks at me and goes, rent them? And I go, that's my boy. And he was like 4. Okay. He's like a mini you. Okay. He's like, I go, guess what he's doing now at 20 years old?
Yeah, is he doing,
baby?
He's doing real estate. Yep, the fam.
He's like, but it's those teaching moments, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
but you see that just kind of playing, but it's really a mindset. I'm with you. No one's taught financial literacy. It's not in any curriculum.
Right.
And I'll go with you. It's on purpose. Okay. But the whole thing is, if they see this, like you and I got to see it, we understand, they live and they go, oh, that makes more sense. They go, time for dollars is not the way to go. That's one of the things I taught them. It's just, you have to start somewhere. Great. Go work at the Culver's, go work at the fast food restaurant. I want you to go be at a crappy job.
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to see systems, process. I want you to be that little cog and understand that so you get it. But I also want you to learn that you can get on the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the beauty starts to happen. And the leverage and the wealth and the freedom is really there.
Yeah, I think that's so important that you taught your children that, as well as, me teaching, and also that they had to start on the other side of the fence too, right? Because it's kind of like, well, you and I were in the military, and I was an NCO. For those of you who don't know what that is, a non-commissioned officer, a sergeant and above, right? And I remember a lot of people, like some officers went through school, but they never went really through being an enlisted person, So like when I went to Mass Military Academy, so it was the same OCS, OCS, if you will. Like there was a different level of respect for an officer who had been a military enlisted person versus somebody who had never been that.
Right.
And I guess that's, probably like in the Army, we had warrant officers, and I think those were the most.
In the Corps. Yeah. In the Corps. Those guys got the most respect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
And
from both sides.
Yeah.
Right? All the way up. They were.
Yeah.
From the colonel down to the private. You know what I mean? Those guys had some serious respect.
Yeah, and I think it's because they were on both sides of the fence for the most part, and and they've learned both sides of it, and I think that's a great leadership characteristic, and it's certainly a good moral building characteristic, because now we can relate to what other people are going through versus just like, okay, we've been on this side of the fence for so long, we can't relate. Like you said, you've been swinging a pickaxe out there, right. For that's hard work, and and if somebody hasn't done that, they don't really get that component of what that person's thinking and feeling. Especially if it's cold outside, like in Wisconsin or here in New Hampshire, right?
Right.
So I think it's really important for people to not stay there forever, but pay your dues in that space to understand the full breadth of, what is even in selling. It's like, get on and start cold calling, You know what I mean? Like start getting rejected and get beat up and all the other things that can happen. Have crummy leads or have to go out and get your own leads and, play that before you can get, sales ready leads given to you. And it's a much better way to do it, even though while you're going through it, it's kind of like sometimes it's not so fun, right?
Well, it gives you a different sense of gratitude. Makes
Yes.
you have a higher level of appreciation on that kind of stuff. And I think one thing I remember, so I love to work hard. That swinging the pick, like other people, I'm like, we had, so we had me out of the Marine Corps, an Army Ranger. He's our foreman. Okay. Had a big squid, big Navy guy, right? Big old boy working with us. We dug more trench. So it's 18 wide, 18 deep in Caliche than anyone in the whole Western United States by hand. No
Wow.
one could touch us. Right. We were just savages and stuff. And I love doing that. So I was working for another company too after that. And I'm like, I'm way ahead of the group. It's all these, it's primarily like landscape and stuff. And they're primarily Hispanic and everything else. And one of the guys at lunch stops me, one of the foremen, and he goes, Richard, can I ask a favor of you? He goes, like, you work really hard, you work really fast. Could we maybe, instead of fourth gear, could you do third gear? Because he goes, because see these guys, they're going to do this for the rest of their life. You're
Wow.
not. And I was like, yeah, I totally get that. He's like, I mean, third gear all day. That's what we want. That's really good. We have a pace and we need to do that. And I've never forgotten that. I'm like, I'm like, suck it up, man. Keep up.
Mm.
But again, I'm not doing this I know I was going somewhere else, right?
Yep.
This is just filling a gap. So that was good insight from the other side, right? So I created that empathy when I had my crews. I started really looking at time frames. Like really, I know what I could do, okay, but I don't have that expectation of others
Yep.
because I'm in a different place and I have a different end result and an outcome and an achievement. So for them, I was able to ratchet down. And I took that third gear all day. That became like a motto. That's how we work. Third gear all day.
Well, I think it's also a really healthy way to look at life,
Yeah.
right, Richard? Because it's like it's not like you're just coasting, you're actually growing and moving and really kind of trying to stay a bit above the bar or a little more above the bar. And, people in life, most people I have found, that's what they want. They want to feel some contribution in the process of what they're doing, but they don't want to be like killing themselves over and over and over because, they realize they want a quality life. They'd like to go home instead of swinging a pickaxe, full bore all day long and going home and this like plop into bed and because they can't move or, the next day they wake up and their neck is so sore from swinging, the shoulders or whatever. They're really looking to have a quality of life on a long-term basis. And I think our system, at least our American system it doesn't really teach that. It's like, it teaches either go full bore or mediocrity, and I think that third gear all day is a really profound concept and a way to live people's lives. So you feel like you're contributing and being more than who the average person, in yourself would be. And I also think that, and I'd love your thought on this, but I also think that when you're working in that capacity, it stimulates your brain differently. And you realize that you can do things more. We all have problems, we all have challenges, but if you can kind of get yourself into that mental mode of third gear all day, you can take yourself out of problems and challenges a lot quicker than if you sit there and focus on, the problem,
Right.
put yourself in suffering, so to speak.
Yeah, so true. It's and you grew up in the industrial equipment and replacement. So use this. Okay, anything with moving parts is going to wear out.
Yeah.
Okay, so the faster you run them, the faster they're going to wear out. Same for our bodies, the knees, or so. I work out. I still train 5 days a week. I'm still hitting the bag like a savage because I just love it. But that's because I keep doing it. right?
Yeah.
So there's consistency to it, but I also know I can't do it 5 days a week. I hit the bag 3 days a week because when I hit day 4, things start to hurt. Okay. So I do a different workout on those other days because always I'm going to break myself because I have skills that my muscles can't keep up with. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just what it is. So I like to cross it over into what we do in the third gear all day is that because that momentum, it really ties into consistency. You can
Yes.
be far more consistent at the third gear than you can at fourth gear. You're revving the engine, at max RPMs. Well, that's not going to go forever, right?
Uh,
So it's that longevity we're trying to create with achievement, like you're saying. Everyone wants that purpose, Doug. Everyone wants purpose and contribution, and they want to go. They just don't know. Going back to your point, they haven't been trained to think this way. When we talk about average, I usually tell people, like my kids, I go, all right, you want to know the fastest way to get to average? I said, wake up in the morning and you've reached it. Okay.
yeah.
So once you're there, okay, where do we got to go? They're like, up. There you go. Okay. We don't go back. We go, you're at average when you wake up, and then from there we're going up, So I'm not a fan of mediocrity. Doug.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is
I'm not
my thing.
either. And to I'd say the imperfection side of part of my life, sometimes I'm more of a perfectionist, but I've also learned that if you run fourth gear, if you, like you said, you keep revving the engine for ever and ever and ever, your mind and your body don't like it long term. And, I've actually been to the point of burnout. So I understand, it's a real thing, I used to always think, oh no, that's crazy. People talk about this stuff. And then when it happened to me, I was like, trying to get up and going to work and trying to get up and do things. And I'm just like, my mind's going, take your pick. Either you sit down or I'll make you sit down, that type of thing.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. And it took me about almost a year to kind of get through that recovery process. So as you said, if you keep pushing the pedal down and revving the engine, well, back in the old days, we'd say, well, throw a rod, it'll throw a rod, right? I mean,
Right.
it'll blow. It'll blow up somehow, or burn out, or and that is true, I think, with human beings in most capacities. And you're right, as we get a little bit more seasoned in life, our aging, you can't. I used to study martial arts, and I remember reading a story one time about a master and his student, and the student was in his like 50s, late 50s at the time, and he went to the master and he said, I'm so upset with myself. He's like, master said, well, why? And he said, I can no longer effectively kick over my shoulder length any longer. Like, I can't kick so high. And the master said, what's the problem? He goes, well, I can't kick high. And the master says, well, then learn to kick low.
Yeah.
It was like, because the master understood as he aged, he was not going to be able to do these type of things as easily as he used to do them. And I think that's, in every sector of life, we have to kind of learn that, it's interesting to me, because Richard, I've been looking at, like, in the insurance business, I look at stats and metrics and all this stuff to try to understand what motivates people. And I was looking at, this is kind of weird, but mortality chart the other day, right?
Yeah.
And the majority of people before they're 50, certainly before they're 40, only 10% of the people actually die, right? That type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But out of those 10%, the majority of them die through accidents.
Mm-hmm.
But after they start turning 50, the majority of people die through chronic illness.
Mm-hmm.
And in very rare cases, in all places, like 5% or so, rare diseases and things like that, malaria or mosquitoes, whatever, right? But what that told me was people don't take care of themselves all the way through a certain point in their life. And then they're revving the pedal down, or worse yet, not even putting any pressure on the pedal. And their body is actually, and their brain starts atrophy or starts to completely burn out. That it causes, chronic illness. They're not sleeping well, not eating right. They're not exercising. Like you're going every, 5 days a week. That's a very small percentage of the population, especially at our age group.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important if younger people are listening to this to learn from us as they get a little bit older. My mother used to always tell me when I was a little boy, and I never got it until I got older, but she used to say, it's sad that the wisdom is wasted on the age and energy is wasted on the youth.
Yeah.
And when she first said that to me, I'm like, what the hell? I don't even know what that means, but
because you were young.
Yeah.
And full of energy.
Exactly. But now as I, get a little older, I realize what she meant. And that is, you have a lot of energy, but you don't pay attention to the wisdom. And therefore you miss the wisdom until you get older and you've gone through all these hard knocks and then you gain the wisdom, but you're so bloody tired by the time you gain the wisdom, you don't have the energy you had before. So it's kind of this paradox, I guess. But the ones I think that really, when they get it right, like you said, third gear all day, learning from people like you, learning from people who are been there, done that, and deploying the lessons, because the lessons are the same as we grow up. It's just maybe the circumstances, because technology's changed or society's changed its view on something. But when I look back through history books, they were still having the same problem in the 1600s we have today.
Yeah, Doug, it's interesting because, with my kids, so they're all growing, late teens. I got 6 kids, and I give lots of wisdom. I'm full of wisdom. Okay. Is it received? Usually not. Sometimes it is. You don't know, but a lot of times it's received, but there's no sign of it.
Yeah.
Okay, till later.
Yeah.
And they kind of figured out, they go, now I know what my dad was talking about.
Yeah.
Now I understand. That's why I tell him you can thank me later. Right? Because like I know, so I have a responsibility to give that wisdom, received or not received. I would be remiss if I didn't give it. And I know most of the time it's just right over their head.
Yeah.
Right? I totally get it. It's okay. They do come back to me. Or then you hear things like, and they bring up these memories or lessons learned. You're like, oh, I forgot I even told them that.
Yep.
But you share something, so you don't know what they actually take. And I think that's the same thing as people get younger. Like I use an example today, like the big hustle and grind culture, to kind of go to this whole burnout thing too. You're going to crush it. You're going to work somewhere for a couple of years and you're going to end up with nothing. No friends. Maybe you'll have some money, right? No connections anywhere. You're going to work really hard, beat yourself up, spend all this time in the gym. You basically become a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you're going to have no relations, no nothing, but hey, hustle and grind, right? So it's one of those things. I'm not that hustle and grind guy. I work hard. I work deliberately. I'm not busy to be busy. Right. It's the old, the difference between motion and progress. A rocking horse stays in motion, but doesn't make any progress. Okay. I want to make progress. I'm measuring day by day and where we're going, and that's the difference between hustle and grind and like legit plan and pacing to achieve what you need to achieve.
Yeah. And I don't think it's just the younger thing too, Richard. It doesn't matter what age we are, we can always learn and we can always gain skills. The cool part about it is when we're young, like you said, you don't know when it's going to show up. But as you get a little more middle-aged or whatever, you kind of like want to put the lessons in play now, because we're on the other side of we understand what it was like to be in our 20s and our, in the 20s should be a fun time of experimentation and learning and growing and things like that. But man, geez, I was too, so stressed out. Like people stress themselves out because they think they got to figure out their whole life.
Yeah.
By the time if I hit 30 and I don't know what I'm doing, my God, the world's going to end for me. That type of thing. It's like,
my son was on a podcast with me. He's in the Marine Corps now. And, they were asking him all these questions. It was pretty much his interview, right? I'm just along for the ride to go, yes, that's true. But they were asking him about, like, did you always want to be this and do this and that kind of thing? And he's like, well, yeah, I guess I was about 7. I thought about going to the military. I never knew this. Okay. We did a lot of stuff. I trained on the box and run and all this stuff. But he also said, he goes, but I think what the problem is, now he's 20 years old at the time, right? And he
Okay.
goes, I think the problem is all these people think they're supposed to know what they're supposed to do, what they should do. Because I've seen that with a lot of my friends and things like that. I'm like, I didn't have that. I'm not thinking I know my whole future, even though he does do everything for the future. He's one of those, we're in this conversation, right? And she's asking him about, well, why the Marine Corps? And he goes, well, I want to be able to protect my family with both my hands and a weapon. And I just looked at him across him, like, okay, I'm just going to tell you the difference between you and I at 20 years old. Okay. I did like hard and great things to do the thing. I was not thinking about my future. I go, you are like light years ahead of me. Okay, 20, I'm like, that's pretty impressive, but to hear that kind of stuff again, but he's like that whole what you want to be. I mean, it took me all of my 20s to figure that stuff out, right? Because I was just a knucklehead. Okay, like I'm doing business, I'm trying things, but I wouldn't listen to anyone. My first 20 years in business, no help. I would not accept it.
Yep.
And so I look back and go, I wrote a book about how much of an idiot I was. Okay, during that time, like, I got billionaire clients, Doug, giving me advice. And I'm saying, yeah, what do you know about building water features?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, so hey, we all got our time, and I finally learned, right? So I'm like you, I'm giving back. I write these books. I tell people how to get out of the owner prison, how to do this, how to do that. But I really want to pour into people. I want to really help them compress time and save those bad decisions, those costly mistakes.
Well, and the reality is all we have is time, but we don't know how much time it is. Like, you're talking about the people burning themselves out, when they're younger, right? I mean, 1 in 10 don't make it past 40 years old. I mean, which is right. So most people don't think about that way. Because, for the most part, we don't really think about it like, oh, I had a classmate die and they were in their 20s or whatever, but it's, which I did have. I mean, I had 2 actually in their 20s that I know of that passed away. And then, certainly somebody in their 30s, but I think it's just one of those things when we're that age, we don't really think through it. It's sort of like, we're just so caught up in everything we're trying to do, but it's nice to see your son is, clearer about what he wants. And it's probably in part of the way he was raised as well. And that's one of those lessons that just sort of cropped up that you weren't really thinking about.
Well, he caught a good one. He caught a good lesson. Okay, but so it is good. But yeah, I see it again with 6 kids. You see 6 different outcomes, all in their own way and everything else. They're all pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, at least 5, 6. He's getting it figured out. He's coming along. He's doing okay. But yeah, it is that, and it's just my whole thing. My number one thing, Doug, I don't know if you were like this because you started so early, is work ethic. So a big thing for me was just I don't care if it's on the keyboard or on a shovel. I don't care what the work is. Okay. What I want you to do is be diligent at it. Like go and like, this is what I do. Work, not afraid to do 2 jobs when you need to. Take it out and make, my daughter's doing that. Full-time jobs and a part-time job. Like no one told her to. They just know to do this. They go and they do this kind of stuff. So that ability to work, that was one of the examples I could set. More is caught than taught with kids. So they're going to watch what you do. Right. So they're always going to watch what you do, not really what you say. But if what you say and what you do is the same, you're going to make an impact.
Yep.
But if they're not congruent, you're going to have issues. And this is the same thing in business. If you're the leader, you're saying one thing and doing another.
Yep.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I've had this conversation many, many times with owners or CEOs, and it's like, I don't understand what's going on in my organization. And I'm like, let's look in the mirror here and what do you see? And they're like, oh no, it can't be, and it's like, well, I've been looking at afar for 2 weeks in your organization, and here's the things that I see, and here's what people are saying. When I did so I was the president of Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes had a company, and we used to do a lot of consulting work in that company. And we would put intentionally 1 or 2 slides in our presentation deck when we were presenting to a company of, here's the things the CEO would want to hear. And we would list them out in front of the whole company. And sometimes people would cheer or laugh through the thing, you know, but it was one of those things that it's eye-opening, because we as leaders, if we're leading a company or a squad or a division or whatever, right? We don't necessarily think that people are always looking. But they are. And, you know, when I was leading teams for Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes, you know, I had 166 people reporting to me at that point. And, you know, I was the number 1 closer in the company. And I purposely made sure I was the number 1 producer in the company, because I realized if I was doing that, then if somebody came to me with a complaint, they couldn't say, you're not doing that. And so when they would come to me with something, they'd be like, it wasn't really more of a complaint, but more of a, how do I get to here? Right. And so that was because of the leadership. But I'm not trying to say that I'm the greatest leader in the world, but I do know that one thing about leadership. And I'm sure, Richard, you and I have seen this in the military, where we're like going, oh my God, what does the colonel do? Like, you know, like, it's like, this makes no sense. And so, you know, there's one company, for example, they're no longer in business. And I told them they weren't going to be in business for a long period of time. But the owner literally used to go party and then take pictures of the parties and send them throughout the company.
Oh boy.
And I was like, what does this have to do with your business? And he's like, well, you know, I want to motivate people that they can go party. I'm like, they're not going on the boat with you, right? They're not. And so one time someone must have said something of something, because what I wasn't aware of at the time was the owner of that company, he would go on boats, go out to sea and bring a lot of cocaine with him. Well, guess what the Coast Guard did one time?
Right. Join the party.
Exactly.
The hard way.
Yeah. And that was the end of that company. That was the end of that CEO. The board threw him completely out, like, whoop, and the company ended up falling and going out of business eventually. But so, you know, it's very important, whether we're a mom or dad, a military leader, or a owner of a company, a leader of a division, whatever. I agree with you. People look at that person and they question in their mind, is this somebody I want to be?
Right.
Is this somebody I respect? I want to follow, I want to emulate. And if the answer is no, that's okay. If it's not because of professional reasons, but if it's because of personal, you know, integrity issues, then, you know, that's not a good place for an organization. And organizations who are listening, you should remove that. If you can't train it out of the person, remove that cancerous, you know, position, you know, person out of that position. You'd be way better off, and you won't have a lot more lawsuits happening in your companies.
Yeah. You know, Doug, I've learned over the years too, as we train frontline guys and supervisors, and you want to do the leadership thing, that I've kind of changed the definition. You know, I really try to turn them into coaches. Like, you need to coach your people.
Yep.
You don't need to supervise your people.
Right.
Okay. You need to coach them. So everything has to be a learning opportunity. Okay. It has to be a teaching opportunity, a training opportunity, right? And once you start thinking that way, because if you think about it, if you ever played on any kind of team, was the coach just barking orders?
No.
Do this to faster. Like, there's a time for that.
Yeah.
To encourage, I'm air quoting encourage, right? But there's also like, here's how we run the play. Here's what I need you to do. Okay. My corner man, boxing, I couldn't win half my fights without him.
Yeah.
And he'd tell me one thing. I'd sit on a stool, little water, 30 seconds in, tell me one thing to adjust, get back out there. No confusion. Get out there and stop him. You know what I mean? I land that hook to the body, right? Bam, down he goes. That's a corner man. That's what you need, right? You need a coach.
Yeah.
Right. So And I have to work a lot with a lot of managers and supervisors with that, because it's a mindset shift. Because they go, you're a leader to create more leaders.
Yes.
Okay. You're a coach to build better players, right? To get more players and have a better team. That's your job. It's not a power trip. It's not a position of authority in the wrong way, right? You're there and you want that respect. You want to coach. You want people to respect you. Coach them.
You know, in sales, sales manager's job is only really two things. It's one, increase the sales of the department, division, whatever you're running, and that's through being a leader. And two, being a coach and coaching people through that process. If we focus on those two things, magically sales start to grow in that process. So, you know, to support what you're saying, it's critical. It's mission critical in a company that and this is why people, you know, if you're going to promote people within, you want to look and do they actually have this characteristic to be able to do these things? Because just because in sales, for example, you know, a lot of times they'll take the top producer and try to make him a sales manager. And it's like, do they actually have the attributes and characteristics of being a sales manager, or are they absolutely great where they are? And, you know, because if you want to pay them more money, great, figure it out in the comp plan, right? But it doesn't mean you, like a sales manager's got to report numbers and spreadsheets and crunch, you know, and all that. I don't know a top producer on this planet who wants to go do a pivot table in Excel, right? So
that's right.
So it's one of those things to be very careful about. And if you can get your organization on all levels to be coaching people up, and coaching means that the other person that's being coached also has to do something.
Yep.
But if you can do that consistently, you create an organization that's constantly training on those things. You'll have this huge, wonderful organization. I was just speaking with his man's name is Russ Whitney, and Russ built a huge training company, construction company, like $1 billion. Owned Rich Dad, Poor Dad, majority share of those companies. And we were just talking about this earlier today, Richard, and he was saying, you know, we were running, you know, I mean, this is crazy. They were doing 600 live events a week.
Yeah. Oh man, I remember that pre-COVID.
Yeah. Oh, geez, this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a week.
Yeah.
And in 6 countries, if I remember correctly, that they were doing these. And, you know, he told me one of the biggest factors in his company was they had standards and processes around training. It was just a really big concept that they just constantly did, you know, and they had like 2,000 employees in this company at that time. So I think it's just one of those things that, you know, you don't have to have 2,000 employees to get going. You can have 2.
Yep, that's right.
Right. And you build that process in, because top performers want that.
Well, and the key word you said in all that was standards.
Mm-hmm.
We're big on it. I go to so many places and they literally don't have any.
Yeah.
They have produced and they have this, and I'm like, where's the standard? How can you hold anybody accountable if there's no standards? It's all subjective. You're wondering why you have chaos? Like it's anarchy. It's total anarchy. It's like people do whatever they want. It's like they don't care. There's no expectations. There's no consequences. There's no anything. It's just it's like a dysfunctional, you know, ant pile.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least the ants know what they're doing. You know what I mean? So it's like everybody else it's insane.
I've watched recently, you know, like restaurants now, like it's like self-service kiosks and all this stuff that's going on. But even when you go up and they take your order now, and then they turn this tablet over and it's showing, you know, 15, 18, 20, 22, 25%.
Preach, Doug. Here we go.
And
talk to me.
I'm like, firstly, like, what's the point of this for the customer, right?
Right.
It's like, so, you know, I've interviewed a lot of customers on this, and they're like, it really kind of pisses them off, right?
Yeah,
and it's like, And they also feel like they're not getting serviced because even when they turn that thing back, they may put a tip in or whatever. There's nothing special about what's going.
They don't even thank you.
Well, and that I was just going to bring that up. So thank you for bringing that up. In the last 9 times I've done this, I tracked it. Not one person said thank you for a tip.
That's right.
And so going back to your point about standards, it's like, geez, guys and gals, if you just trained your people to say thank you, you would stand out from the rest of the competition that's going on. And I think part of the problem with that people don't realize that maybe in their age group, it's acceptable. But in our age group,
right,
it's not. And we have usually the majority of buying power in our age group.
Right.
Right. And so it's like you're turning people. I've literally not gone back to places because there are other options out there. Like I love smoothies, right? I'm a smoothie, I guess, junkie. And there's one place in particular, they don't even say thank you. And I just bypass it and literally drive 5 minutes more down the street to a place that will say thank you or good afternoon or good morning or whatever, right? Yeah. You just look at the simplest transactions, even like grocery transactions. You go through the line or whatever, and when we were growing up, people talked to you and said, hey, is there anything, did you find anything you want today? This, right, that, this. And I'm finding even in a lot of the well-known grocery chains, the people are not even talking to one another. They're talking to their other employee or they're looking on their phone or whatever. And it's like, what people don't realize is people want to feel valued.
Yep.
It's like, but there seems to be this pervasive thought process of shifting away from basic human communication and, creating a relationship. I don't know where all this is going, but I don't feel it's going to a good place personally, Richard, because, the disassociation of human communication.
I'm with you, Doug. So a couple of points on that. It's just like, to give the example, one thing on the tip thing is they turned a little reader to you, go, just answer one question. A question, which is tip.
Yeah.
$1, $5, none. You know what I mean? I'm just like, that's to me. And there's no thank you after. Doesn't matter. I could hit $20. You wouldn't get a thank you because like they don't even know. So that's that. But I think here's what I look at it from a business standpoint. Everything you just said is absolutely correct. So here's the big takeaway. You know now the secret to have an amazing business. Don't do that. Okay, like actually be relational. You ever go to Aldi? Do you guys have Aldi's out?
Yeah, Aldi. Yeah.
Okay, so they're everywhere. They're the 3rd largest grocery chain in the country, right?
Yeah.
Love the model. It was like 4 aisles. When my wife writes me a list, Doug, it's in order. Okay, like when you come in, she knows the order, right? And I am mission only. Okay, I don't shop. Whatever's on the list is all I'm getting and all I'm coming home for. I don't care what's on sale or what bells and whistles are going off. I am mission only. But there they do, did you find everything okay? They still ask, at least here in Wisconsin, okay? They ask those kind of things. They get to know those people, right? Because they do everything in the store.
Yes.
So I love them. They're cleaning the floors. They're stocking and pulling pallets out. They're ringing you up. I go, does anyone even appreciate this model? I've been going here since like the 80s with my mom when it was really just crappy canned food. now they got pretty good stuff. They merged with Trader Joe's because they were brothers and all that stuff. But I'm telling you, everything you said, like do the opposite. Be relational. Talk to people. Engage them. Because here's the beauty: you'll need 1/3 of the customers to be successful. Because those other ones, they need the volume because no one's getting an experience. Or they're getting a bad experience, right? None of that kind of stuff. Even my construction people, it's about how do you deliver a world-class experience?
Well, you're hitting on a real pet peeve of mine in the trades business right now. Right? I mean, you want to be successful in the trades business, just show up on time at this point. And shout out to all these, shout out to Trader Joe's too. Like the service at Trader Joe's is amazing. And the crazy part is Trader Joe's and Whole Foods are always in our area, like right across the shopping parking lot. And many times I'll walk into Whole Foods and they won't even acknowledge.
Yeah.
And it's like the food is like way more costly in Whole Foods than Trader Joe's. And yes, they have different things, but they're similar products in a lot of ways as well. But yeah, in the construction business, maybe not so much construction, but the trades business.
Yeah.
Like, I think they just erased follow-up as a concept in the trades business. Like, I think it's like, if you look at a training manual and there's a section ripped out of all training manuals now that say, that used to say, follow up with your clients and you'll have more work. Right. I think they just completely pulled it out. Don't communicate like a zoo animal, just like basic stuff. And I am picking on the trades business because I've worked in that area for a long time. I mean, I grew up around electricians and I grew up around, so back then though, at least they talk to people, like it's weird. Like even at locations that we own, I'll sometimes have tradespeople come by. They won't even acknowledge me. Like they won't even say hi. They'll just go start to do the work. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe they don't speak English. And then I walk out and I'll grab a bottle of water and walk a hot day or whatever. And I'll say, hey, if you get, here's some water. And then they'll look and they'll say something like, well, thank you. I appreciate or whatever. And I'm like, oh, so you do speak like you, right? It's like, I think that most companies in the trades business, if they just worked on human communication and reliability, which is like crazy to me because that is a component of trust, to show you care, to show your expertise, to show you're sincere, to show you're reliable. That's like what creates trust, folks. And if you're not doing this in any business, it's insane if you have to talk to people and you're not. Like, it's crazy because, when things are really good, people tend to forget that type of stuff, right? Like real estate, there's time in real estate not too long ago. Like, I don't know, if you had a pulse, you got a real estate license and you threw a sign up, 23 people would line up to bid on a house. Well, anyone can sell a house that way. That's right. But, as the economy turns and things slow down and then the economy sort of slows on the housing market, now you got to really learn how to actually do the real estate business. And if you did all the good stuff, then you're going to rise up to the top during the downtimes because a lot of your competition will go away. I believe the same thing in the trades. They're going to be, in a way that they don't want to be eventually.
Yeah, those are my primary coaching clients. Okay. So I work with them all the time, right?
Awesome.
So I know exactly what you're talking about. So it's really interesting. The ones who have really embraced what we're talking about to do, and I mean, world-class experience, their growth and their coaching, it's unbelievable. Okay. I mean, they just can't help but grow. One saying one of my clients had is, he's a remodeler, kitchen, bath stuff, we got him really kind of working high end and we like tripled his, revenue, all this kind of stuff, profit margins. But he had this great saying when he talked to people, because everyone's got a construction horror story. If you've ever hired anyone to anything, we could spend, 25 shows an hour each talking about this. But he has this great line because he's talking to people when he's closing. He goes, and they ask him about when it's done. He goes, well, one of the best advantages is we'll still like each other. When we're finished. And I'm like, and he can say it in the Southern accent. It was just like, I go, dude, that's gold. And people loved it. Like, we'll still like each other. Because they don't like their contractor when it's over. Because he's not showing up, they're late, they didn't do this is not time, they're over budget, whatever, name your 25 things, the first 25, and that's it. So I took my approach, Doug, was, let's go look at all the construction reviews. Let's start grabbing from all over the country. Let's get all the negatives. Give them what's the most top common 10 things. Yep. And you find them, there's no communication. It's okay. Now let's do what we call our reverse guarantee. Okay. So instead of saying you'll be satisfied in this, we're going to say we will never, and we're going to take number one. We will never do that. And we will never do this. And we're going to speak right to the client, to their pain points. Okay. Because they're all waiting for that shoe to drop during the project. And we're going to say, we're never doing that. And you don't do that, right? You show up, you got time, you let them know what's going on, you walk them through the process. And guess what? You get all your draws then. You actually can maintain your cash flow because you're getting paid, because you're not disappearing for 2 weeks on the job and then showing up again to start it up again. It's all this stuff. So it's so basic. My book, Escape to Enterprise, and it's the contractor's new way to scale, regain control, and fast track growth while loving life. And that's all the book is about, is these basics. It's like I go, this looks, when you read it, it's pretty fundamental, but ain't none of you doing it. If you'll just do this, okay, your life gets better.
And like you say, it's the basics, right? It's not
right.
Like I have been trying now for 2 years. I just gave up and went and bought internal air conditioners. But for 2 years, I was trying to get mini splits and, HVAC companies. I think it was 17 companies in 2 years I had reached out to.
Wow.
And I got, out of the 17, I think I got 4 or 5 proposals. And no one followed up on the proposals, even when I called them.
Yeah. So,
and I had quotes, Richard. Now this is a house, right? It's my home. I had quotes from anywhere between, on the very low end, $33,000, on the very high end, $65,000, $67,000. So we've got an average job of $45,000, let's say. And I can't, for 2 years. I was just like, I said to my wife, I said, forget it. I'm just going down to Lowe's and I'm going to buy air conditioners.
So let me ask you a question. Did they email you the proposals?
Yeah. Some of them emailed.
Right. Did any come and do a presentation?
One
out of 17.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just run through this. Speaking of pet peeves. I tell all my contractors, if I ever find out you emailed an estimate to someone, I will come to wherever you are and I'm going to jack slap you. Okay. We never email an estimate. Okay. You're doing your estimate. You're there, right? You're measuring, you're doing whatever you got to do. You're putting together Doug's HVAC proposal, everything else, doing all that. Before you leave, you say, Doug, all right, I think I got everything I need. So tell you what, how about next Thursday, you got 3 o'clock open?
Yeah.
Because that's when I'm going to bring back the proposal. I want to walk through it with you and everything else. And I'll show you what we've got. And you're like, oh, cool. Boom. It's in the calendar. A couple great things. First, when you're going to get it. As a contractor, I know I have to have the bid done.
Yep.
And now I get to show up and wow you with an incredible presentation and add value to every line item I'm telling you. Instead of having you get an email, they go right down to the bottom and go, oh, 64,000. Oh, he's 43,000. Oh, and all you're doing is comparing the bottom number.
That's right.
No value there, right? So they don't even know how to sell. And they do that and they don't follow up, they don't show up. Like, that's a layup. Okay. I mean, it's like, the guy's going to do something, like he's looking at this stuff. And so, I'm really adamant about you set the time. That's an expectation. You're coming through, you're building trust. You come and you walk in and you get like 90% of the jobs.
Well, of course, because in the absence of perception of value, it's going to revert to price or convenience.
Exactly.
Right. And so if someone had have just showed up and talked to me, I was ready to go. I was I'm like, and let's face it, $45,000 for air conditioning is not the least costly thing in the world to be looking at, right? It's not like I need a new roof on the house or it's going to be leaking through or whatever. This is I would say more, I live in New Hampshire, like you live in Wisconsin. It's like, we don't use our air conditioning more than a few months on normal out of the year. So it's more of a luxury. Right? Or a convenience purchase. But no one showed up. And I was just like, forget it. I'm just like, I went out and spent like $700 on air conditioners and I just threw them in the house. And
I did that I had a roofing company and I would do the same. I'm given an estimate. Now listen, it's a roof replacement. There's like 7 elements.
Yeah.
It ain't complicated. Okay. So I go, I got Eagle View, I got satellite measurements. I go and do a presentation, walk them through, write out the entire estimate. Okay, give them the whole deal, the whole package. Okay, good to go. I get the job. We close the deal. I'm at the table, spent the hour, I close the deal at $19,000 roof. Great. We're walking out to the car, to my truck. She's coming, the homeowner's coming with me, opens the mailbox, she pulls it out, she goes, "Oh, look, it's an estimate from a guy who came out 2 weeks ago." And I went, "Oh, I guess you don't need that." She goes, "You're right." She threw it in the garbage can that was right next to the thing.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. And I'm like, "See, I got the check. Goodbye." Okay.
Yep.
I spent an hour. This guy took 2 weeks to get back an estimate he could have done in the driveway.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, but that's the mentality out there with these guys. I don't understand. I don't know if it's from an ownership. They just have low expectations. I don't know if it's a mindset for them. They're not a hustler. They just think like they're it though, and this is how they've always. I don't get it. You know.
I think what's happened, because I did ask a few people that I know in the trades business, like, why are you doing? And they're saying, well, we're so busy, we don't have time to do that. And I'd say, then hire more people and grow your company revenue so that you're not a $10 million company today. You're a $22 million company, right? But it's really not that hard to, like you said, to set an appointment, go by and pick up a $20,000 check.
Right.
It's
It's okay with me. I did it a lot.
It's like,
Okay. I mean, it's mind. I'm telling you, it's mind boggling. Then you start discussing with him, just like one contractor I had. So he was the kitchens and bed. He's averaging about $41,000 for a kitchen remodel. I'm like, man, that seems low.
Yeah.
And I look at his work and it's spectacular. I'm like, you are not charging it. I get there's the $41,000 kitchen people. Okay, you're going to get a $41,000 kitchen. Okay, so I'm like, okay, we're going to change the pricing. Let's talk about that, who you're actually serving. We walk through. In about 9 months later, his average kitchen price was now $93,000.
Yeah, it
Okay,
doubles the business.
We learned who we want to serve, who's the best client, what we're actually giving, what we're selling, and like it was unbelievable. It was the follow up. Let's go do a presentation, do all this stuff. All of a sudden, and he doing $170,000 kitchens.
Yep.
Okay, doing 200. I'm like, see, does you show up, you care, you got the relationship, you build this, you set an appointment for the presentation, you come back, you wow them with that. No one else is doing that. You know, when you get started, you stay until it's finished. Okay, you're not pinballing 9 jobs. Because when I met him, he was doing 12 to 15 jobs at a time.
Ooh.
I'm like, you can't, with no project manager.
Oh, no. Yeah,
like I'm crazy. Like I'll go that you can't forget keeping the plate spinning. They're all off the sticks.
Yeah.
There's too many sticks for the plates. I'm like, well, how about we do a third of that and we double your income and your revenue? He's like, okay. And that's what we did. Pick the right customers. Now we're doing 4 jobs at a time. Right. For 3 times the money.
Yeah. And when you have the higher end customer like that, normally, you know, they're easier than you know, the other customers, and you can now afford to spend the time with that client. Mm-hmm. And guess what, folks? Those people know other people just like them who now you're picking up $200,000 kitchens on a regular basis versus, you know, getting pushed to a $42,000 kitchen. And then, oh, my brother-in-law has a kitchen, but that's only $30,000. And you go into that. Right. You know, it's one thing if you come from 200,000 down to 160 or 170 is still really good. Right. And you'll end up, I call that the Marconi Club syndrome. And I'll tell you why, Richard. So I used to be a professional DJ early on in my life. And a friend of mine, Chris Wimmers, if you ever listen to this, Chris, thank you. I was coming in and I was just like, literally, I was like $250 to do a DJ job. And he goes, dude, you need to raise your prices. You're like better than any other DJ out there doing these mobile events. And I'm like, I don't think I should do that. Right. I've like got, you know, like, I mean, I've got like 100 jobs a year that I'm doing as a DJ company. Right. And he's like, double your prices. You'll do half the work. You'll do less work, probably half, but you'll make twice as much.
Right.
And I was like, I can't do that, Chris. So then I get booked at this place called the Marconi Club. It's a wedding. And I walk in and it's like, yeah, it's kind of a seedy little hall. And I set up, do my thing. They're paying me the 250. And then I hear the bride and the groom all upset at the function hall manager because they had plasticware for toasting. They were plastic champagne glasses.
Right.
So I walked over to the owner and I said, I'm just curious, how much did they pay for this hall? And he said, $75.
Oh my.
And in my head, which I should have known better than this, Richard, based on my upbringing, right? But in my head, I went, oh my gosh, they're complaining about $75 that they're getting this whole wedding venue for $75. And so I call my friend Chris back and I go, I'm doubling my rates. And I did. And he goes, why? I said, the Marconi Club. It's like the Marconi syndrome, right? And he goes, what the hell's that? And so he had told him what it was. He goes, oh, yeah. Now you know what I'm talking about, right? Then when I doubled my rates, I started getting into better venues. I was now getting into country clubs and I was getting into corporate events. And so I ended up doubling my rate again. And then I went up to 1,500 and then 2,000, 22, 27. Right. I was only doing toward the end about 27 events a year, but we were averaging somewhere around $2,500 an event.
Yeah.
And I was like, but now I'm playing McDonald's Christmas party with 550 executives. Right. I'm at the country clubs down in the Cape Cod, Massachusetts, the high-end hotels, like you name it. Like, I'm only doing like 60 grand a year in this business part-time, right. But still, that's all I was pretty much doing anyways at 250, even my first year when I had 100, it was too many events. So we had to cut them back.
Right.
So it's just, one of those things that what you're saying makes so much sense. And folks, if you don't remember anything, remember the Marconi Club, and then you might catch this thing, right?
Yeah, it's one of those mindset shifts that you try to get to people that can be really, really difficult because you got what they think about money. We talked about that, right? What they actually think about money, how do they value it, how they don't value it, they don't understand leverage of it. They don't understand they don't do those numbers. Double my prices, do less. It's like when I tell people if they don't give discounts. Well, why not? I go, because if you give just a 10% discount, you're going to have to do like 33% more work just to make the same money.
Yep.
So, and guess what? No one gives just 10%.
Yep.
And here's the other fun fact. A buying decision isn't changed until it hits 40%. Okay? Think about this. You're sticking giving away money.
Yep.
For no reason at all. They're not buying because they got 10% off. Like that's what people got to get their head around. Now, when they're doing food and all this other, I mean, there's a lot of different things, but for the most part, it's like just like increasing your prices. You doubled. You went from 250 to 500. So you're now making $250 profit.
Yeah.
Additional 100% profit. Didn't change anything. Same record, same gear, same travel, and it's like, and there you go. So like, it's one of the fastest way to increase your profit margins.
Yeah. And if folks, if you're not catching this, think of yourself as a horse or a donkey, and you have a cart, and you're pulling this cart. Every time you discount your price, you've now thrown another rock in the cart, big rock. The more you discount, the larger the rock. And now you've got to go uphill, but you just piled in your cart 32 big, huge rocks. You are going to get tired. And it's like, this is so spot on, Richard. I mean, it's like crazy that people do these things.
Here's part 2 of the cautionary tale. Okay. So when you get the marketer who's saying he's going to double your revenue.
Yeah.
Okay. He said revenue. He didn't say profit.
Right.
So he's going to institute discounts. Okay. 10, 20, 30%, give away this, do this, do this. Your revenue is going to go up. Your profit's going to the bottom.
Right.
Okay, you're gonna have to produce so much work. You're gonna work a whole lot and make a lot less money.
Yeah.
So don't be lured by the revenue number.
Yeah. Yeah. You always, I mean, you always want to look at the profitability of your company. If you, I mean,
Yeah, we're talking common sense, but as we all know, it's not so common anymore,
I
even in
worked,
business.
it reminds me, I worked with this company. They were doing a little over $1 billion. And I was working with the CEO and I said, well, you know, what's your numbers like? You know, what's your gross profit? What's your net profit? He goes, well, we're doing $1 billion. And I said, yeah, okay. I'm sorry. Maybe you didn't hear my question. What is your gross profit? What is your net profit, right? Out of these things. And he goes, listen, we are $1 billion corporation. I said, how much money are you losing? And he said, we're about 70 million in the loss column every year. And it's like, okay, so do you want to keep doing that? It's like, you know, it's like, I'd rather see you at 900 million and you were making,
Right.
100 million or whatever. But so it's just, the reason I bring up this crazy example is because a lot of people don't think like this. They think that, all these big companies, right? I just talked to a guy, had a $180 million company, filed bankruptcy just recently, right? And so it's not necessarily how big the company's going to get. When an investor looks at a company to buy it, they're going to look at how profitable you are, what are the systems, what are the, and sometimes you could have $100 million company and get less for it than if you had a $50 million company with the right, things in play. So, but you're right. You work a heck of a lot harder when you're doing those type of things.
Yeah, again, it's so common. See, I'm like profit driven.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I look at. The revenue is irrelevant to me. I get there's a place for it, but if my margins aren't there, okay, I don't want to work for nothing. These people, that's what they do. $170 million company filed bankruptcy. You're working for nothing. You didn't build $170 million by sitting in your chair spinning in circles.
Correct.
Okay, you're busting your hump.
Yeah.
You get that revenue, and then it all goes away. That hurts. Okay, that's like, wow, that was a waste of 10 years.
Yeah, it's like, would you rather have a $50 million company and have $1 million on the bottom line, or a $10 million company and $3 million on the bottom line? Right. It's like, people don't look at it that way in a lot of ways. But you know what's weird? I don't think I hope we don't get any hate emails or mail from this, but like, I don't really know many people who look at their net income, even if they're an employee of a company. They don't look at what they're taking home. They'll be like, well, yeah, I'm making 120,000 a year. And it's like, okay, what are you taking home? That type of thing. And when you compare that sometimes to somebody who, say, is self-employed, making $90,000 a year, but they know how to work the tax structure in their favor, they're actually bringing home more money than the person at 120,000. Now, there's I guess a logical argument that could say, okay, well, at the end of our lives, the Social Security is there. My check will be bigger than yours, but if it's there.
What do you? An extra $100. What do you get? An extra $100? It's bigger. Go buy your loaf of bread with that. Okay? It's about where you're going to be. Yeah, so true, Doug. Man, it's just so many of these little things. I've really enjoyed the conversation, because sometimes we got to like talk fundamentals, and then we have to apply them. Like, it just, because somebody says it's almost like parables. Okay, you got to sometimes put that so people can grab it. They don't kind of understand. They gloss over it, and the average person they look at revenue numbers. They look at real estate, meaning how many buildings do they own, how many stores do they have. They look at all this kind of stuff, and I've never looked at businesses that way. Okay, I always look like, how are they even open? I started looking at what they're selling. Like, this place can't be. They can't be profitable. So I'm looking at, if you talk to them, you'll find out. Oh yeah, we're just luckily the lights are still on.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
so it's just out there. Don't be fooled. And if you're in business, and I spent a lot of time ignoring the numbers because all I ever thought being successful business was making money.
Yeah.
I ignored everything else that was hard to do. I just went out and made lots of money, and that was fun till it wasn't. Okay, then and then everything's over in a heartbeat. But really, like, just kind of take this as like our little cautionary tales, as I said earlier, that there's a lot to it, but you have to learn to look at the right numbers. That's what it really comes down to, and it's not a favorite thing for entrepreneurs to do. They're visionaries. They got great ideas. They want to expand. They want to, and I get it. You need that energy, but you've got to put the discipline to look at real numbers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, on my side, that's, math-based, metrics-based growth,
Yep.
right? I mean,
Yep.
it's the same thing. So it's, and you'll find very successful entrepreneurs will look at those numbers, because they tell a story, and then you can head off the challenges or capitalize on the opportunities that the story reveals. So, I'm a big fan of what you're saying.
Yeah, you can forecast, you can do all the cool things. You
Mm.
can see where things are going, you can see when things are dipping, you can adjust far earlier, you can put in contingencies before you need them, right? So they're legitimate contingencies,
Yeah.
not afterthoughts. When things are going bad, what should we do now? You actually have a plan and you start laying that stuff out, so you can be, you don't have to be totally reactive. You can be proactive, right? And you kind of just, you can roll out the next thing. And I've had some clients who've done really well that way because they're paying attention. They see what's coming on the horizon and they can prepare for it and put this in place, and they weather the storms.
And the storms will always come.
They will always come. So I tell people, listen, how has this company been in business for 125 years? Because they're not a bunch of idiots. Okay. They understand these things. It's the tide comes and goes. That's the tide of recession, depression, inflation, whatever you want. It's all coming. These are all part of the battles that we got to fight. And if you're not paying attention to this stuff with your own business, you're not going to navigate those seas.
And if you look at the history of a lot of those companies that have been around, they have weathered many. I mean, Harley Davidson almost went out of business several times, and but they're Harley Davidson today, right? So it's like,
my claim to fame.
Yep.
I dated the CEO of Harley in the 80s. I dated his daughter. And he's the one who was kind of doing that whole turnaround in the 80s. Remember that? They kind of did the big everything else, and that was interesting. She's a nice girl. Didn't go anywhere, but
I forgot you were from Wisconsin. Yeah, because that's they're just south of the capital, right?
Yep, that's right. That's right. So a lot of Harleys on the side of the road. See them all the time. I'm just kidding.
That's funny.
Oh man, Doug, this has been just awesome. Just awesome. I don't know. Neither one of us knew where this was going to go.
No.
Okay, we just got on, and I don't know. I liked it. I think it was a really great conversation, and I know our listeners got a ton of stuff from it. So let me give you the opportunity. How can these guys follow you? You're doing a lot of cool stuff. You're really helping a lot of people. So what's next steps for the listeners?
Well, if they want to know more about me, they can just type in Doug C. Brown in the revenue, profit, growth, whatever. I am purposely everywhere, so I should come up. If they want to contact me directly, my email address is doug@ceosalesstrategies.com. If they, we have this, can I give a giveaway?
Absolutely.
Yeah. CEO Sales Strategies. Both of those are plural, salesstrategies.com/2 and then X. So 2X. And I put a course together it's free. On how you can predictably, if you want, double your sales. And so
I'll forget it. Who wants to do that? No one wants to do
that. It's all, it's looking at metrics and math and all that good stuff and the components around there. But, that's what I've used for years, decades, literally, helping companies do that. So, it's there. So as a gift to your audience, I think it would be a great one.
Thank you. That's awesome. And I always tell my audience in these situations, you must take advantage of these offerings. Get them, read them, and the most important thing, put them into practice. Okay. We don't just read to read. We read to do. That's
Yeah.
how we read. So, Doug worked hard. He put this together. He's given it as a gift. So like return the favor and actually go do it.
Thank you, Richard, because the thing is that about 13% of people ever consume the content,
right?
Which is crazy. And this is not content I can promise. I can just know this is content that's been in practice. So I know it works. And I still use it today. It's just, as of this podcast, it's still current information. So it's a lot of the basics that you and I were starting to talk about, but it's definitely, if somebody's deploying it, they will absolutely grow.
It's awesome. Awesome. So do it. Just do it. And with that being said, for everybody else, we'll see you on the next STS podcast. Thanks for joining me on the Sharpen the Spear podcast. If you're a manufacturing executive and you're serious about unlocking hidden profit, improving frontline leadership, and taking control of your floor, go to grit2lead.com right now. Run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator and discover your biggest opportunities are hiding. Don't leave millions on the table. Sharpen your spear, lead from the front, and win the floor. Until next time, stay sharp.